every morning with drive. Being on the grind, know I had to survive. We had to win. Started from the dirt and the rubble. I had to be the needle that was popping your bubble.
Hello fans, and welcome into the Rookie Prospect Profile Series. This is a Zilla Fantasy Elite production. Today, we're going to be looking at tight end Ben Sinnott and the tight end rookie machine learning models. Is Ben Sinnott poised for fantasy greatness, or is he destined to fade into obscurity? Stick around to uncover the verdict from our cutting-edge machine learning models, which do 1,000 simulations for each and every season of the prospect's first 4 years in the NFL. As many of you likely already have seen the rocket ship emoji on Twitter. If you haven't, at Todzilla1337, go check it out. This is a very exciting profile here for Ben Sinnott. He was drafted number 53 overall by the Washington Commanders, come into the league out of Kent State University. He's 6'4", 250 pounds, so getting up to the more prototypical or ideal size there. 40-inch vertical, super nice there. 4.68 in the 40-yard dash isn't too bad, but that combined with the 250 pounds, speed score at 103.7 is all right. Breakout age, 21.2, 22.5 college dominator rating, 19.4 college target share, 9.5-inch hands. How's this guy going to do in our machine learning models each and every year? Well, stay tuned and we'll dive into year one right now. And for some of you who saw the rocket ship emoji, seeing this year one result, mean median right around 4 or just above 4 fantasy points per game might be somewhat of a shock. He was the second tight end drafted in the NFL draft, so some of these rankings might be a little bit disappointing. We'll see if he can progress after year one. This may present itself a buying opportunity. So the 4 fantasy points per game mean median, maximum output at 10.4 roughly. What do those look like in historical context to the last 11 draft classes? We actually have almost 15 tight ends here in between 3.84, which is Trey McBride in his rookie season, and Tucker Kraft at 4.62. So all within 1 fantasy point of each other here in their rookie season, starting from 3.84, going up to 4.62 in that order from worst to top of that. Trey McBride, Cole Kmet, Tommy Sweeney, Hayden Hurst, Jesse James, Gerald Everett, Jesper Horsted, Luke Wilson, Harrison Bryant, Richard Rodgers, Nick Boyle, Seth DeValve, Charlie Kohler, Eric Ebron, and Tucker Kraft. Of particular interest in there, we saw Trey McBride hit 10.68 fantasy points last year in his second season, Cole Kmet 10.65 in his fourth year, and Eric Ebron 9.3 and 11.1 in the following 2 seasons. So we got quite a few people down in this range who went on to have pretty successful fantasy seasons. That may be the case here for Ben Sinnott, but just how good will he end up being in the later years, we'll see in a little bit. Maximum output 10.38, very similar to what Kyle Pitts' rookie season was, which was 10.39. That's the 5th best tight end season of the last 11 draft classes. Just above him, Caden Smith, 10.8, Timothy Wright, 10.1, Hunter Henry, 10 flat, Pat Freiermuth, 10.48, Dalton Kincaid, 10.39, and Evan Ingram, the 3rd best rookie tight end season in the last 11 draft classes at 11.6. It's roughly in the range. If he hits a ceiling in year one, we'll see what that comes about, but I'm just saying, hey, they got a rookie quarterback, very mobile. This could be maybe the start of a Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews type of situation where rookie year, it's not going to be so great. We see them down here in the 4 fantasy points per game range. Hey, their offense doesn't look so great. Maybe this is a buying opportunity after year one, because once we look into some of these later years, getting into year 2 here, we see Ben Sinnott basically make a over 3-point fantasy points per game jump into year 2. Now his mean and median at a very respectable 7.2, 7.3. Looking at those graphs on the bottom, the density plot especially, we see those 2 peaks. Some of them hovering right around 6 fantasy points per game. Another one in between 8 and 9 fantasy points per game. But really in between that 6 to 10, 6 to 9.5 fantasy point per game range. It's really condensing all of the particular predictions right in that particular range, which is a good sign. CV at 24.3 is very, very good in terms of confidence level, second best in the class. only to Mr. Brock Bowers. So what does a little over 7 fantasy points per game look like in historical context, the last 11 draft classes? We got about 9 tight ends in this particular range in their second season. And again, the second year tight ends, there's 150 overall in this particular database. So we're looking at, out of those 150, this is roughly the top 30-ish range, the end of the top 30 range in the last 11 seasons. Guys like Tyler Eifert, Timothy Wright hit 6.7, CJ Uzama 6.8, Cade Otton, Cole Kmet we see again 7.13, so we're seeing kind of a trend here with Cole Kmet. Austin Hooper 7.5, Kyle Pitts 7.56, now in the median range of outcomes. Irv Smith 7.58, and Michael Rivera 8.3. That's the rough range of characters you're looking at in terms of fantasy points per game. Well, 7 fantasy points per game isn't necessarily winning you any weeks in your fantasy leagues. It is a respectable fantasy point per game output if you're putting in a tight end for, coming off the bench as a second season in the league. Still got a mobile quarterback. I could see this kind of being the case. It's potential, he's sitting in that peak on the right range, which is around 8 to 9 fantasy points per game, which is just above the people I'm talking about. Then you get names like Pat Freiermuth, Mike Gesicki, Zach Ertz, Jordan Reed, who are super good, Eric Ebron, David Njoku, Dallas Goedert. Those are all like the next range of guys right in that 9 fantasy point per game range, which if you're drafting Ben Sinnott in the second, third round of your fantasy drafts, it's a pretty quality spot to draft guys like that. That maximum output, 11.28, one of the best ever in the last 11 draft classes. We're talking top 10 here. So Hunter Henry again, 10.6. Trey McBride, 10.68. TJ Hawkinson, 10.96. Austin Seferian Jenkins, 11.3. Same with Evan Ingram. Travis Kelce in his second season, 11.4, famously missing his rookie year. Then O.J. Howard is the 4th best ever in the second season at 12.1 fantasy points per game. Getting into some pretty good company there. Obviously, if you're hitting your 100th percentile outcome, you'd expect better names like that. But I would say in that 6 to 9.5 fantasy point per game range is pretty likely here for Ben Sinnott in year 2. Where it gets super interesting, though, is Ben Sinnott year 3. See a massive, another 3-point jump up here in his mean and median, up to 10.79 and 11.06 for the mean and median. Number 1 in the class there in terms of that outcome. Even the 75th and 90th percentile outcomes, 13, 14 fantasy points per game. Those are starting to get into top 3 tight ends on the season in that range. And these are really condensed. If you kind of look at the mean through 90th percentile, 11 to 14 points, it's hovering right in there. It's looking like Ben Sinnott with a super big year 3 breakout, number 1 in the class here that you see. CV is still below that 30% threshold at 29.2, so pretty solid there. Maximum output all the way at 17.14. You'd be extremely happy with a season like that. So in terms of the last 11 draft classes, what did we see for tight ends hit that 10.5 to 11 point range? Now you're starting to get into some of these pretty solid seasons. Again, these are top 15 seasons within the last 11 draft classes for any tight end in their third year. And this is his median projections, right? So Noah Fant hit 9.94, Austin Hooper 10.1, Dallas Goedert 10.58, Mike Gesicki 10.62, Dawson Knox 10.94, Eric Ebron with the 10th best year 3 season out of the last 11 draft classes hit 11.1, and then Zach Ertz, Cameron Brate hit 11.4, and Travis Kelce at 11.6. We know where he went after that. So really, really good company there in terms of mean, median projection outcomes. Top 15 in the last 11 draft classes. Number 1 in this year's draft class in terms of projections for his median outcome in year 3. Getting all the way up into that maximum output, 17.14. There's only one person that was ever better than that in year 3, which is Jordan Reed. He hit 17.4 in his third season. Quite the stud there. George Kittle, number 2 at 15.9. Tyler Eifert hit 14.7. I believe he scored like 12 touchdowns that season. Just a massive effort on his end. And Evan Ingram at 13.7. Mark Andrews, number 5 on the list at 12.15. So really 12.15, if you're looking at this in year 3, 12.15 is barely above the median threshold there. So really looking like Ben Sinnott could hit a top 5 outcome in terms of year 3 tight ends within the last over a decade worth of classes of tight end prospects. So really, really, really likes him into year 3. What's he going to look like into year 4? Is he going to continue to grow? Unfortunately, we do see a minor step back of about a point per game here. Mean at 10.12, median at 10.55. All number 1 in the class here. Maximum output, though, at 15.08 is the 3rd best in the class, surprisingly. CV at 22.9. It's very confident in these particular values for year 4 as well. And again, you're hitting double digits in year 4, which is really, really good. Out of the 99 tight ends in the last 11 draft classes who have gotten to year 4, there's only been 13 total tight ends that even reached double digits in their 4th season in the league. And it's liking Ben Sinnott to do that, actually. So who was in that median range, right around 9.5 to 11? We actually only have 4 tight ends in that range. O.J. Howard hit 9.4, Mike Gesicki 9.71, Cole Kmet, who we've seen pretty frequently, 10.65. Dallas Goedert at 11. So really, you might have your next Cole Kmet on your hands here with Ben Sinnott. I know we're not really singing praises for Cole Kmet. He was the number 1 guy in his class. Kind of slow progression towards what he's become, which is double-digit tight end fantasy producer here. But really, if you look at that big bulge there, the density plot, we're looking at an awful lot of projections that fall in between the 10 upwards of the 90th percentile rank there, which is around 13 fantasy points per game. So seeing a lot of them in that 10 to 13 range, which is excellent. That's roughly where the top 12 seasons out of the last 11 draft classes are falling. That's guys like Hunter Henry, Tyler Eifert, Zach Ertz, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Tyler Higbee, Dallas Goedert. They're all kind of in that range. The maximum output, 15.08, would be the 3rd best overall. So we're looking at Mark Andrews, year 4, 17.71. Massive, massive season. George Kittle, number 2 at 15.64, which is just above this mark. And then just below it, Austin Hooper's 4th season, he hit 14.6. Jordan Reed, again, 14. Travis Kelce, 13.8 in his 4th season. And you're getting into guys like Zach Ertz at 6th best there at 13.1. So really, really a lot of projections in between this 10 to 13 range. It really likes Ben Sinnott going forward after basically year 1, expecting a pretty mild season. And that's where I'm saying I think you can make some ground. Hey, Ben Sinnott, if he doesn't do particularly well in the NFL in year 1, not maybe a death knell for him. That's just kind of in his profile to have a second year where he really improves. And then from there, going into year 3, we see a huge leap up for this type of profile. And then kind of maintaining that through year 4. Seems like a value in the rookie drafts. I know he's becoming more and more popular. I put out the rocket ship tweet. Got over 15,000 views in 2 days, essentially. A lot of people are on Ben Sinnott. I think it's driving up his ADP. So if you had some of these early drafts, I think you're going to see some 3rd or 4th round draft picks following the NFL draft, those ones that happened within a day or 2 after the NFL draft ended to maybe a week. And now that we're getting a little bit later into draft season, I would say these later ones that happen in the summer, you're going to see Ben Sinnott creeping into the 2nd round, maybe even the round 1-2 turn with some of those second round wide receivers that were drafted. Crazy thing is, I didn't mention it, that year 3 mean and median, it's only worse than 4 of the wide receivers in this year's draft class. As you can imagine, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, then Brian Thomas Jr. was at 12 or 13 for his mean or median in year 3. Ben Sinnott's at 11. That's 2 points better than the next closest person, which is Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman was at 9 something. Absolutely blowing the doors off of this model. I think he is someone that you're going to be interested in, maybe even trade for him during the season if he's not producing well with that rookie quarterback. I think you can really make some profit on a guy like Ben Sinnott in your dynasty leagues, and by trading for him or getting him into your rookie drafts in some of those later round picks. Excellent choice there. Really glad to go over this profile with you guys. That's going to do it for today's rookie prospect profile on Ben Sinnott. This is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. Thanks for tuning in.